I arrived in Toronto a few nights ago, and have been living in my car since I have a limited amount of money. I've eaten fast food every day, and I hate it. I need a home, but the only one I know is infested with people pretending to be my family. I'm terrified, depressed, and I'm on the verge of committing suicide. I don't want to deal with all this fear and loss anymore. I want it all to end. But I think about the small chance that my real family could still be out there. And it's keeping me alive. It's my only fuel for life right now. I need answers. The man that I plan to meet, Joel, gave me his number and we've been texting back and forth for a few days. I know you guys told me not to trust him, but I have to. It's my only hope for answers. My only chance to figure out what the fuck is going on. He says he's an expert, which leads me to believe that this isn't the first time this has happened. How many cities have been taken over without anyone knowing? Joel said he wasn't in Toronto as he was visiting a friend, but he'd be back soon. It was Friday night and I was waiting patiently in my car. I was actually excited to talk to this guy, to talk to someone who knew what I was going through, to express how scared I was. Maybe he would let me stay with him. Maybe he would help me. A wave of hope crashed into my head as I started to feel safe. There was no way this thing could take over Toronto. It was too big. I sat in my car eating Wendy's. I've never been a fan of fast food, but it's all I could afford. I hadn't seen any people smiling at me, so I wasn't as scared as I should have been. My phone was dead. No texts, no Snapchats, nothing. None of my friends were replying, which is weird because they usually reply within the hour. As I swiped through my phone, my head started to hurt. It was like a mild headache, but quickly turned into a migraine. Minutes later, and it felt like someone was stabbing me in the head repeatedly. I started to tear up due to the pain, and I stepped out of my car. I walked a few steps before throwing up on the street. It was late, so there weren't many people around, but some people definitely gasped as they watched me puke up my dinner. I looked up, and everything was blurry. I couldn't see anything far away, and everything close up was disoriented. I wiped the vomit from my mouth and looked up. There was a tall, lanky man in a suit walking towards me. As I watched, his walking sped up, and he was getting very close. Before he reached me, I felt my eyes shut down, and I passed out. I woke up in complete darkness. I couldn't even tell if my eyes were open, it was too dark. My mouth was dry and my eyes were burning. I felt around and realized that I was in a bed, a very comfortable bed. I had no idea where I was. Maybe Joel found me and took me to his apartment. I sat there for a few minutes trying to think where I could be when I heard a voice. Do you hear that? It's coming from the furnace room. It was Alex. I was in her bed, in my basement, in my house. Somehow I traveled all the way back home. I don't know who brought me here or how, but I was terrified. It suddenly got a lot colder than it already was, and I could hear a faint whispering coming from Alex's directions. I couldn't see anything still, but I heard a man's voice whispering what sounded like gibberish or maybe a different language. Can you go check it out? Alex asked. I thought these things already knew I figured out what they were. I mean, I left home for days without telling any of them, and I acted scared as shit. Why would they still be playing along? I reached for the light that I knew was beside Alex's bed and turned it on. I squinted my eyes as they adjusted to the dim light and could make out Alex's figure about 10 feet away from the bed. She was facing the furnace room, arms by her side. Can you go check it out? She repeated. I decided to play along with this thing. Maybe it didn't know that I knew. No, I'm sleeping, I stuttered. Her head twitched at my reply, and I realized she was now staring at me, but her body hadn't moved. Can you come check it out? She asked again. At this point, the voice was getting progressively louder, and I definitely think it was in a different language. No, I said. Her eyes shifted from me to the ceiling, and her head turned back to the furnace room. After a few more seconds of staring, she turned around and walked up the stairs. I could see a smile on her face as she told me goodnight. The voice quickly stopped, and it was silent again. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to run upstairs and leave, but I was too scared my family would be there. I grabbed my phone, which was plugged into the wall for some reason, and called Joel. I told him what happened and where I was. What? He screamed. I never knew they were capable of this. This is all new to me. Please, tell me what you know about these things, I whispered. Fine. I'd rather do it in person, but I guess that's hard to do with you not being here anymore. He cleared his throat and sighed, as if he was about to tell me some bad news. These things feed off of fear. They impersonate families and friends of people. They live with them and follow them wherever they go. Without fear, they have no food, and without food, their bodies start to decompose. This is because they are not actual beings. They are some kind of spirit that kills the host and takes over their body. These things are everywhere. Cities across the world have been taken over by these things. I started to cry. My family was dead. My hope was destroyed. Any chance of seeing my actual family again withered away as Joel continued. I didn't reply. I couldn't. I was overcome with sadness and shock. I never thought something like this could happen. I thought this only happened in horror movies. How do you know so much about this? I asked. I wanted to know. There was no way he knew all of this without coming into contact with one. I could hear Joel's lips open and close as he was trying to find the best answer for my question. I could hear his voice crack as he pondered about what to say. He was hesitant to tell me. I couldn't tell whether it was out of fear or sadness. After what felt like forever passed, he finally answered. I know because my family was taken over as well.